please take the roll.
Trustee Clayton, you there?
I'm here.
Trustee Kinsley? Here. Fountain? Here. Lindhorst? Here.
Matthew Bound, he just texted me and said he's not going to be able to make it, and Joe Schuylerman said he's going to be running a few minutes late.
And since Trustee Clayton is, I believe, away for work purposes, we'll need a motion to allow him to participate remotely.
Make that motion. Do we have a second? I'll second. All in favor? Okay. First item on the agenda.
While we're talking about schedules today, my daughter performs in high school at 7. So if Joe does make it, we'll continue on. I can make that performance.
Okay. First item on the agenda is public comments. Would anybody care to address the village board this evening?
I have 2 questions. I've noticed the last 3 months on city water, light, and power.
Go up front. Go up front, state your name and address the public.
Okay. I'll do it. So, I don't want anybody to be upset. I have 2 questions. Becky Ethel. I'm sure you all know me. I have noticed for the last 3 months we're paying city water, light, and power $854.77. What is that for?
That's our backup water supply agreement.
So we have to pay them that every month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The next question is, since the South Sangamon County Water is going to up what they're going to sell it to you for to $8.26, my question is, what are you going to tack on to that?
Pat, were you and Sherry looking at how our ordinance is set?
Yeah, right now, all we're looking to do is pass on what the South Sangamon Water Commission increase. The village is not looking to put an increase on top of that.
You're not going
This
to
year.
put the 44 cents?
I'm sorry?
You're not going to put what the village charges now, the 44 cents?
We're going to leave what we charge on there now. We're not increasing that.
So it's going to be 44 cents onto the $8.26, right?
The difference between wholesale and what the village charges.
I'm not sure what the difference is, if it's 44 cents or what that number is. I don't have that in front of me right now.
Well, now you're charging us 44 cents more, right?
Yes.
Our water rates are all over the place. They differ for how much usage you have. It's based off of consumption. You have a straight, flat meter fee that we charge every month. So what that actual number is, I don't know what it is right today.
Well, I guess I was just wondering, because somebody said it's only going to increase your water bill by $7 a month, and I think that's horse hockey myself.
Well, if it's $1.41 and you use, what, 3,000 to 4,000 gallons, you just take 3 or 4 times $1.41.
But that doesn't include what you put on top of it. So if 44 cents...
But that's the increase, Becky. We're not talking about what your water bill is going to be. We're talking about the increase. And the increase is going to be $1.41 per thousand.
Okay. Okay.
So you take $7.29 and add $1.41, and that's going to be your total cost per 1,000 gallons.
That's what we pay now, is $7.29.
Yes.
And Mayor, if I may, I think it may be helpful also because the way that the process is set up, the board will discuss the water rates. They have to give notice of those water rates. And so there will be a lot of, I think, discussion and formal action by the board after this kind of review period. But then I think what we're hearing the administrator say is at this point, it's unlikely that staff is going to propose anything more than what South Sangamon Water Commission is proposing. But the whole water rate discussion will be a discussion that will be held by the village board and decided upon by the village board.
They currently charge us $6.85. The proposed is going to $8.26, which would be $1.41 increase per thousand.
Yeah, I understand that, but my concern was, because there has always been extra money added on for village, that was my question.
That will not increase, it will stay the same.
So it'd be the 860 something plus 44
826.
per thousand.
If you guys say it's 44 cents,
Well,
whatever the number is, it's $1.41 per thousand increase. Just,
that's what we're paying South Sangamon County Road.
that's what you will be paying additionally.
Right. I guess you're not getting my point. I guess you're not understanding what I'm asking. And well 9, I think, is still down out there because of bacteria, from my understanding. And also, their maximum capacity is 1.8 million gallons. So if you start getting on all these subdivisions and everything, Craig Hall was cattle, and the green sand filter figure in. And this does not, this 826, 868, and 882 does not include that. So I think that probably within the next year.
And all that is in Lee's report that went to the board, and it's also on the village webpage. So that stuff, they know all those items.
I don't think they know that well 9 is still down.
I think it did say in the report that well 9 was down.
Did they?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next commenter?
I will. Bonnie Bellick. I do want to thank Mr. Fountain, Mr. McCarthy, for going to the SSWC meeting. I was there as well. There still seems to be a little bit of a conflict, and with Lee Bloom being there as an appointed representative of the village, we need to make sure that we get this straightened out, because a lot of things were twisted. I believe CMT, the engineers that were hired by the village of Chatham, said that the water was corrosive. They did not say that it was slightly corrosive. But Woodward and Curran engineers are saying that it's slightly corrosive. The village citizens need to know which one it is, which one you guys are following through. Is it the engineers that you guys have hired that are bringing these facts to you, or is it going to be the SSWC? Biggest concern is like Becky had mentioned, 9-well's been down for quite some time, and we're not concerned about, the bacteria in that well. We've got to figure out what's going on, because it was very clear in that meeting, by maybe the way I put it, is we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. If we continue to build Chatham, which I'm not saying I am against, but with Iron Bridge, and this was all brought up in the meeting, and we have it taped, thanks to Darlene, but in Iron Bridge and Spartan Valley, and then the Cardinal Ridge Apartments, when those are built, water needs to be supplied to them. Right now, they've told me they can supply 1.8 million gallons of water. If we start supplying to the building of Chatham, which again, I'm not against, but can they supply the water? If not, the rest of us that have been here for years are going to have low water pressure. We're going to have to worry about the quality of the water when you have that low water pressure. But then again, if we don't continue building, here's the other part of it. We don't continue building, the water plant cannot fix things, they cannot build it bigger, they cannot make it sustain the growth of the village of Chatham. So we're in trouble there too. And I realize that some of you guys will be gone in April with the election, but you're still responsible now to the citizens of this village on giving them answers as to what the issues are. Don't wait a few more weeks when you're out of office and go, hands off, here's the new board, here's the new mayor, whatever. That's not gonna help. It's still your village, you guys, sitting up there right now, it's still your village, Mayor. Just give us some answers, you know? I don't wanna go out there and get one set of answers and then come here and get another set of answers from two engineering departments. We're wasting a lot of money with CMT being our engineer if we're not acting on what they are telling you needs to be done out there. And it's not being done. Plain and simple, if they can only produce 1.8 million gallons of water per day, which is their words, videotaped, then we have a problem building Chatham. But if we don't continue building Chatham and they can't sell the water, our rates are gonna go up a heck of a lot more than $8.26 this year. It's gonna go up a lot because we, as the citizens that built that and gave that water plant away, we're responsible for them to be able to succeed. And they're not going to if we don't build, if we don't build. So consider that. Don't walk away from your responsibilities as a mayor or a trustee just because you got a few more weeks. Please, be accountable. Mayor Gray, you've given 16 long years. And I would rather see you go out on a high note, giving the citizens answers to what we need, okay? Thank you.
If I can address.
We do. Sorry, go ahead.
I did talk to Bill after the meeting last week, and I've asked him, and I believe you're prepared when he gives his report to talk about the corrosive, because there are different levels. So hopefully Bill can address some of that a little later on this evening.
I hope so.
Do you want to wait for your report to?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll wait, we're meeting next week to go over the better and the best type of option and some other things that we've been looking at. But it's, like we've said, once we get those, we need to analyze those costs and put them in, but then we also need to see if there's other options out there as well.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you very
Who's
much.
meeting?
Pardon?
Who's meeting?
Well, it's Bill, myself, Jeff, and Pat.
Okay, we'll deal with those questions, we'll deal with them in the committee, the whole meeting, I guess. Okay, anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
Just a quick question. You said you're gonna meet concerning water rates and stuff. Is that gonna be a public meeting?
It's the best.
She's talking about the water rates.
Go ahead. The water rates.
Yes, the way that it works is the planning, or water commission will meet tomorrow. They're meeting on the third Wednesday of the month.
21st.
Is it, or is it tomorrow?
Third Tuesday.
Week from tomorrow, okay. So they'll meet then, and then they'll give a recommendation on what the rate increases are. They'll send a letter to us telling us what those are. We have 60 days to comment on those. At the end of that 60 days, they go into effect. Unless, for some reason, they change their mind and decide not to go forward with those.
Is the village allowed to say, no, we're not doing this?
No.
Even though we're this much?
No. We can answer that.
Really?
No.
Okay, any further comment? Okay. Moving on then, can I have a motion to put the consent agenda on the table for consideration?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any corrections to the minutes? Questions about the warrants? Hearing none, Pat, would you take the vote?
Regular meeting.
Second.
I thought the warrants was in the regular meeting.
This is a regular meeting.
This is a regular meeting.
Oh, I thought that was at 6:30.
Committee of the whole.
The way the,
Committee of the whole is at 6:30.
because I have a question about the warrants. I didn't know.
Trustee Clayton?
Yeah.
Kinsey?
Yes.
Dalton?
Yes.
And Lindhorst?
Yes.
Okay, old business. I have a motion to put the code changes regarding purchases on the table for consideration.
Here, ordinance number
11.
Ordinance, make a motion, ordinance 1311, amending section 3154 of the village code regarding village purchases.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We discussed this, had Jeff explain it.
I don't know if this is the right ordinance, it's on the,
It's not. It's not, because it's posted on the website, that's not the right one.
yeah, I'm not sure the right resolution is in front of us, or the right ordinance is in front of us. Dispatch, what was,
I just put the one on there that was under old business. They got into old business. Did it change from?
yeah, I had sent a updated one based on the conversation from the last.
Meeting.
Yes, the last committee meeting.
This is
What'd you say?
This is the right one.
Yeah, that's on our table. So maybe table it. I don't think it's, we can still kind of continue on the same theory that we've been working on, but I think maybe bring the correct one back in 2 weeks.
I apologize. Okay, well, that's tabled, and moving on to new business. Preliminary plan for Highland subdivision. That's
already been accepted.
It's already been accepted. Okay. Purchase of village squad cars.
All right, now 1711.
Yeah.
Made a motion to bring 1711 to the table in order authorizing purchase of police mobile video equipment, software, and maintenance from TKK Electronics.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Oh, sorry, I missed some of it, but I know I got a little update. Now, is this just one, company that you guys, police officers will use, is that what it is? You guys might have discussed this last meeting. Is it this is the trusted company, is that why it kind of has that rule of one bid?
Absolutely. As indicated in the ordinance, we went through the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. We went through the RFPs and stuff. We let them do all the legwork for us. They did a process, a year-long process. They bid it out through different vendors, GTAC, Panasonic, LG, and one other vendor I'm not familiar with. Well, TKK was our vendor. GTAC is who we chose to be our vendor. And we was able to ascertain a price at a much cheaper price, getting out of the Department of Transportation through Wisconsin. They were able to purchase 500 units. We was able to purchase those same additional 10 units at that price of what Wisconsin offered. So it's a much cheaper price than going out and bidding on our own, or getting on our own.
Okay, any other questions for Vern? Hearing none, how would you take the vote, please?
Trustee Clayton?
Yeah.
Kinsey?
Yes.
Yes.
LaBerge?
Yes.
And Stone?
Yes. Okay, the accessory structure ordinance.
Ordinance 1712, amending section 158, 013 of the village zoning code as reference to accessory building structures.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Ryan's here to explain that.
Go ahead. In our current zoning ordinance, basically what it states is that if there's an accessory building such as a garage or a shed, that it has to be placed on your property but no closer than 10 feet to a principal structure, a house, basically. What I did was I went to the zoning board and made a simple text amendment to this ordinance, or for this zoning code, which will state that because a lot of the properties in Chatham, especially in the older parts of town, have smaller lots, they were running into issues where they might want to have an accessory building on their property, but because of the 10-foot spacing between the principal building and the structure and the accessory structure, they didn't have enough room on their lot. So what this ordinance will do, the text amendment will allow the accessory building to be within 3 feet of the principal building as long as all parts of the accessory building are 1 hour fire rated with 2 layers of type X 5/8 inch drywall. So I went to Chief Schumer at the fire department, he agreed, I had a unanimous vote from the zoning board, and decided that was a good way to go.
Any further questions for Ryan?
Does this grandfather in any existing outbuildings?
I actually didn't have that as part of the ordinance, but if a structure's already in place, then I don't think there's really much I can do about it anyway.
Well-
If you're asking, is he gonna go back and inspect all the ones that are closer than 10 feet to see if they're fire rated? No.
No, the question is though, if somebody says, calls up with a complaint, and you go out there and you say, no, that doesn't meet our code, what occurs?
That's a great question. I have no answer for that, Joe. I don't know.
Well then, I think we need to address it here before we can move forward with this.
It's kind of the same mess, I mean, because we have to go through the court system if somebody.
Well, I think we as a board, we need to say either, yes, we're gonna grandfather in any structure that was built prior to the effective date of this ordinance, or...
This is moving it closer. Anything built prior to this would have been out of compliance as it is.
Yeah, it could be because of the...
I'm sure there are.
Yeah, because of the type, because it may not have a 1-hour fire rated drywall.
That doesn't change code enforcement.
Yeah, I think it does.
I mean, if I got a complaint today about a structure that was improperly placed on a piece of property, I'm not even sure what I would do to, how do I make them seek compliance? Do I have to make them move it? Do I have to make them come to the zoning board of appeals to get I mean, there's hundreds of sheds.
I don't think we can go out to every house, and I think when the issue arises, we have to address it.
You can, but you have a lot more people in the...
So I think as it arises,
I don't think it...
Or do you put a grandfather clause in
I
like?
think we need a grandfather clause. I think we need a grandfather clause in here.
Okay.
does that hold us liable?
Any existing building that, if it meets this standard, it meets this standard.
So it would basically say after date of passage of this ordinance is when...
This takes effect.
Right.
Do we really need it?
Or do we actually grandfather something in that's non-compliant?
Yeah, that's what my,
You know,
that's my concern.
But, I mean, as a code enforcement officer, what does Ryan do when he gets a complaint, when he sees
He
a
brings it
building?
to us.
The same code enforcement procedure that goes with anything.
I mean, there's so much. It's just once, I think once it's addressed and brought to you, then we deal with it at that point. Because
Yeah, I think
We're gonna be open
that may cause more of a mess
Yeah.
than not, Joe, because then you're acknowledging that that was okay before, and I don't think we want to do that.
and they now have a way of resolving it.
Yeah.
We're getting the fire resistant wall.
Yes. And being able to place it closer to the principal structure because of that. Because of the fire rated.
So then maybe then the answer is the code enforcement officer says, you need to put in a fire rated wall.
after you go talk to Jeff.
When you refer to structure, what are you talking about? A garage, a shed, or what?
Either or.
Yes.
So if
There's two examples.
So if I have a shed on my property and I decide I want to get a new shed, then it has to be drywalled and all that stuff?
Only within 10 feet. Yeah, only if it's closer to the house than 10 feet
To the house or to the garage?
to the house. But if the garage is part of the house, then we would treat that the same as the principal structure,
Okay.
which would be the house.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, are you okay now?
We can vote on it, I don't know if I'm gonna vote for this though. But
Okay,
You got
any further discussion? Pat, would you take the vote?
Trustee Clayton? Kinsey?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Littenhorst?
Yes.
Scarman?
No.
Okay, scheduled meetings, committee to hold to follow. The planning commission will meet March 16th at 6. The ADA transition group will meet on March 21 at 6.
Yes.
And then the next regular village board meeting is March 28th at 6. Are we going to do the closed session? We do not need a closed session. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? All in favor? We can't start the committee until 6:00. 5 minutes, sorry.
Drop Sam off.
So I was counting you to be here, so I'm going to do her. I missed the last one because I was away.
He just doesn't pick up. Yeah, but you don't want it.
It's expensive.
Okay. Mark Clayton,
Mark, you still here? He's gone.
okay.
Coming back?
He said he thought he was only gonna be able to stick around for a while.
Dick Kimsey.
Present.
Terry Fountain.
Here.
Lena Lindhorst.
Here.
Matt Mao. And Joe Shabbat.
Here. Okay. Any additional public comment for tonight?
I'd like to bring something up since it was in the warrants again. We discussed this whole thing about the ordinance for purchases, stuff like that, that it's getting fixed. So thank you. But, and I know everybody thinks I'm like the tree lady, but yes, go ahead. Honestly, we're back to, why are we not bidding this service out? This month alone, $15,600.
That was the point of that ordinance, to put those onto the spots where they are required. The board, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the board will make a motion to direct the staff, gather those lists and seek those types of services.
Yes, thanks during the next fiscal year.
So, that, the 10 to 20,000, is that yearly then? Or monthly? But we're changing it too, I mean,
I'd have to go back and look and see what, but
10 to 20,000 would not get us through a year of tree trimming.
No way.
I mean, this year alone, our electric tree trimming was, we had a budget of $51,000.
no, what I was asking is, in the ordinance, the 10 to 20,000 without bids or contracts, is that services yearly or monthly?
I think we said.
You can pay up to $20,000 monthly without.
I think we said for fiscal year.
I think it was like I think the idea is we're gonna look at how much we expect to spend based on previous history, previous couple fiscal years. And so that's what's the language that's in the new revised ordinance that we'll bring back forward. But yes, we're not looking at a per purchase item, we're looking at how much do we expect to spend in aggregate on, for example, tree trimming.
Yeah, because it was like $66,600 last year.
Right, so in that situation then going forward, those, we'll have a bid for those types of issues, and then we'll work under those bid prices.
Because a couple months ago, we were gonna put a bid out for those services, and then that didn't get done. So I was curious as where we stood now with that. Because I mean, in 3 months, we're up to $24,000.
But we're near the end of our fiscal year, so we're just gonna go ahead and go through and keep moving through at the same rate that we have the fiscal year.
When does
The tree
the
trimming,
end?
the tree trimming, has got about $2,000, $2,500 left in it for the electric department knows that. Anything that they go over that, then they'll be going over the budget. We'll have to do a subsidy, or we'll just don't save the rest of that for only when we have an emergency.
Because it just seems $10,000 for lines off lines, $10,000 is a lot for 1 month. And this is just the beginning of the month. So that just concerns me.
Thank you. Do you have additional comment?
I'd like to compliment Jim. He was named engineer of the year.
Outstanding
Congratulations. I'm really glad we have such a recognized individual helping us. Thank you.
That's the Capital Chamber of the Illinois Society of Professional Engineers, so this is the point where you're going to give your acceptance speech. Well done, to the point. Approval of the February 14th minutes. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Questions? Corrections?
Need a second.
Hearing none?
Did we get a second?
Yes, I did, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
That's okay. I was-
Okay, and then, all approved, did you say that yet?
Yes.
Or you want to take a vote?
Take the vote, please.
Okay. All right. So, Mark Clayton, oh, he's not here, okay. Dave Kinsey? Terry Fountain?
Yes.
Nina Lindhorst?
Yes.
And Joe Shawman?
Yes.
Okay.
CMT engineering updates. Bill or Jim? Bill or outstanding engineer of the year?
Updates on what? Updates?
We take care of it, so, thank you.
Bill's got an inner ear infection, so you can hear him, but he can't hear you, so lay into him tonight.
Go around and talk with you until I'll respond to your concerns first, Jim didn't hear them, but basically on the corrosiveness of the water, the statement we would make is that people that are familiar with water treatment and water, is that water by its nature is corrosive. There are degrees of corrosivity. There's water in the northeast, for instance, where the pH is low naturally. They have acidic ponds and streams, and they fight this all the time. All the way to lime softened water, which is what CWLP had, which by virtue of the lime treatment raises the pH of the water and makes it less corrosive, not non-corrosive, but less corrosive. So it is true that the treatment that is in place at South Sangamon is producing water that is right in the mildly corrosive index in what indices we're using. The steps we've been taking to make adjustments, which were brought forth in the Curry report, and when the word "incurring" came on, I think they knew that they needed to make these adjustments as well. Those are the addition of the phosphate feed chemical, and South Sangamon's not alone, Chatham is not alone. There can name 5 or 6 communities around the state, as I said before, that have iron exchange water, and they're all corrosive, and they all have to do something about it. Some have phosphate, some have caustic to raise the pH, and there are some different ways to make adjustments. Those are the 2 main big players in there. Also, the switch from free chlorine back to chloramines will make the water less corrosive, because the free chlorine you have right now is slightly more corrosive. You can taste it. But it is a better bactericide, so that's the positive side, and that's why they switched. We were pushing them as well to switch back to the chloramine. So those things together will slowly be instituted. South Sangamon is being responsible and not just saying, okay, we're going to, because everything we want them to do is a $10,000 bill, and plus you don't want to do everything at once, because you want to make sure that Plan A works well, that's the phosphate feed, and then we'll go to Plan B, which may be the chloramines. Plan C may be a caustic feed to get the pH up a little bit, which will put the water in a less corrosive state, maybe even in the non-corrosive part of the index. So it's a slow process, and we've been doing with it for 5 years, and but they did make the change when we were at the meeting last Wednesday. The operator got it as soon as the board approved the raise in phosphate. Immediately when they raised it and said we're there. So, and I don't think they're going to have any negative effects from that. And I think it could even be raised even at another step in another month or so after we see what's happening there. Any other corrosion correct questions?
I do have a question, not for you, Bill, but can we do anything with, I understand they're in a budget strain, but I know we have Lee, but it took, and I realize they didn't post it right, so it's taking so long for a change to happen that they're like, well, we have to now, okay, if it's any type of $10,000 change. If we're saying, man, we really need this as the community of Chatham, can we encourage Lee to say, hey, we need to change this ordinance, because this is ridiculous that we waited 3 months for this?
Well, they can always call a special meeting, is that what you mean?
Yeah, but they're not, so what can we do to?
I think we could encourage Lee to take the lead on that and get that message to Lee. If the board is kind of...
I don't know if there's...
If they're going to expend money, though, they pretty much have to have a vote on it right now.
Yeah.
And they do not have the luxury of actually having a South Sangamon Water Commission employee out there that has the authority to spend some money or change the feed rate and stuff like that. Currently, they're all Brewer and Kern employees, and then they work for the board. There almost needs to be that person between them.
Yeah, that they're not...
Well, if you get that, the only thing is, Nina, if you get that person, then you may be adding more on the cost of water, because they would have to pay that person's salary and benefits and stuff like that.
I did make the point at the last meeting before that the operator should not have to go back to the board for chemical fee changes, because it's just not the way you can operate a plant, and do that. And I said that, and by the way, your budget starts May 1, now's the time to budget for those chemicals and give them a range. You know where we're going, give them a range, budget, make sure you got the money, and then let the operator do his job, basically. So they heard that. I didn't see.
I think we just need to push Lee to do that, if I need to call a couple others, because that is, us waiting 3 months to find out what's gonna happen, that something could help us.
Well, I don't think they were opposed to doing it at all. It was just
Well, I just don't know the hang of it yet.
the hang-up of the way that their board is configured.
Right, but how do we change that to not have that anymore, is what we need to have Lee look at, because you're right, as soon as the chemical change is suggested, it should happen.
I think they should use their attorney, to tell you the truth. I think they should direct their attorney to communicate with the other trustees, and then he pass information on to Woodward and Kern. But I don't know if they want to take that step.
Well, I will continue to work with Lee as well, and try to get this pushed through and get their attention, and make sure it's budgeted for, make sure the operator has the latitude to do any chemical. If you want to add a new chemical, it's $50,000, that's one thing, but the phosphate is a little more expensive than some of the other chemicals, and now $8,000 to $10,000 kind of got their attention, and that's what's going on. But we'll try to get the budget and where it ought to be, and work within it, so. Yes.
Their excuse was that the Edgar County Watchdogs were there and it wasn't part of the agenda. And then the next month, the excuse was because of the wrong date, so they couldn't do it then.
Right, but now we need to get rid of all those excuses and find a better plan.
But
You know what I mean? I don't want, you know what I mean, how do we make sure that plan does not issue?
I agree.
But the question was asked, do they have to have board permission to make adjustments? The answer was no. They do not have to have the board's permission to make chemical
They
changes.
don't.
It was the cost that determined them not
So that they need to because of the
to
cost.
change.
They're already, I think, with the chemical budget is over budget already, so they're being very cautious, and we, like I say, fiscally responsible, but we'll try to make some changes, so. Yes?
Bill, my voice is very bad. Keith Osborne. The addition of the phosphates and the chlorines, and the pumps that they've been using, have they been calibrated? And I've never seen a calibration report where the report that said that those pumps have been certified for that.
Well, one thing, I do not know if all the calibrations, I assume we're in current on that, if they're not, the end result is the parts per million that we see in the water of the phosphate and the chlorine. The phosphate seems to be pretty stable, the chlorine seems to be pretty stable, the fluoride is kind of all over the map. So, I look at that and I say, well, something needs to be calibrated. To that end, we took a complete tour of the plant, Nina, myself, Lee Bloom, and Dan Hill, the operator, and one of the other employees took us from well to finished water last Wednesday and showed us the pumps. We didn't get down in the wells and ask about calibration specifically, but that is certainly the next step to keep an eye on the residuals that are in the system and make sure that the calibrations are being done. They should be doing that. I shouldn't have to do it. We shouldn't have to do it. I think Woodward and Kern is on top of it, and if it's not being done, then they know what they need to do. They need to get a new pump, or they need to get the calibrations done. But
So where are you taking your samples for the water, for verification that the correct levels have been put in?
well, they take finished water samples and test in their own lab, and Chatham is also testing phosphate and chlorine here in town. So we've got some at the ground tank, some in town, and some at the plant. So we've got several places where we're taking samples.
And I've never seen any of those results, I'm sorry.
Well, the monthly report shows all of them. All the chlorine and phosphates are all shown, and then Chatham's got their own phosphate and chlorine levels that they're in their table that Dustin's been sampling. So.
Okay.
The chlorine looks very good, the phosphate was just raised last Wednesday, so we're just now going to be, looking at that to see if it's at 1.5 or in that area, but it looks like it's pretty stable when it was lower, so. Yes?
weren't they not too long, okay, the phosphate level they want to use now was,
Phosphate was lowered last fall from 1.5 to 1.0 because of concerns about bacteria in the water. And so now we're going back to where it was.
so they were paying the amount they want to pay now last fall.
That's right.
Then it went down, so they kind of saved money. Now we want to raise it back up, and they were saying they didn't have money to do it, so I was just a little confused. Oh, I know that.
Let me continue on. The question about tank capacity, and that was a good question. I actually sat down before the meeting and discussed it with Woodard and Kern. I said, what are you guys going to do July 5th, July 4th, when the ground tank in Chatham's down halfway and your plant's not keeping up everybody's water, and what's the plan? And that's a tough question because the membranes aren't letting the water through the way they originally designed because they're overloaded with the iron and the manganese. They're not feeding permanganate beforehand. And they think the plant capacity, is probably less than the 2.2 because of the membrane bottleneck, if you will, right now. There was some conversation about replacing the membranes, about adding another trainer in the membranes, and I even said maybe you could adjust the chemical feeds to get more water through the membranes, but we don't want to let more iron through, more manganese through, and come to Chatham homes and live around homes. So to that end, the first thing I said was, well, of course, you can turn on CWLP water, but, think about, is there a way that you can run this plant and get more water through it? And so they're thinking about it, working on it, and I used to be a water superintendent, and I had a lot of sleepless nights in the summer as well. So the backup at CWLP is obviously, you're not going to be out of water, you're going to have water. You don't want to have to do that if you don't have to. But at this point, the membranes need some more attention, and the plant does need to be upgraded to produce the quality of water that you're paying for, and that's something that's in these intermediate term to look at that and try to get the plant capacity where it should be. Yes.
Okay, so if we were to switch and use CWLP water for a little while to help save the water if we're running low or whatever, CWLP's on chloramine,
Right.
and we're on chlorine.
Right.
And doesn't it say that if the two were to mix, nothing's killing bacteria in the water, they counteract each other?
That's exactly right.
So then we have that issue as well?
Right, and that's what I mentioned a minute ago, the switch from free chlorine to chloramines is something we've asked them to do. Their response has been, well, it's going to cost us money again. We want to have phosphate, that's money. The ammonia's money. Everything we want to do is more money for chemicals. So they're being very guarded and fiscally responsible, again, to make sure that they're doing what they can without spending money for nothing. But the chloramine is, in my opinion, is the way to go. I think the EPA would probably agree with me. They have said, well, why don't you feed the ammonia in Chatham? And my response was that plant was built to feed ammonia there. And that's just supposed to, that's not supposed to be Chatham's responsibility.
How much is it, you think, for the chloramine?
How much more?
How much is it for that chemical?
Well, I don't know the exact number in terms of dollars per gallon or whatever, but.
Do you know, Jim, each year to year?
They probably know that, and as we've noted when we were out there, what they were feeding in terms of ammonia was in a pressure vessel, and it was a form of ammonia that we want to change to a form that's not so noxious and doesn't have to be in a pressure vessel. It might be cheaper for them as well. So we'll continue to work with the chloramine thing, but
It just concerns me that the switching back and forth to CWLP, that there's all that time that there's nothing killing bacteria and stuff in the water.
well, the water, as I pointed out 2 months ago, the water source is a very good one. And the fact that the well mine's got bacteria, that doesn't concern me. If I was running that plant, I would turn it on tomorrow and everybody goes, oh, really? When you can't, when EPA says there has to be 0 colonies in that water, and as I pointed out 2 months ago as well, we do not sterilize the water, we disinfect the water. We get to a point where it's potable, drinkable. And so the bacteria in well 9, although it does render it, you can't use it without calling the whole order for everybody, It's really kind of a minor thing, it's in the sampling lines, it's not in the well, it's not in the aquifer. If the water's fully treated at the plant, I would have no concerns to use it if they had an emergency, but of course, the CWLP backup probably the first place to go there, but anyway, so back to the plant capacity, they do need to look at it. The two membranes are a problem, and they need to figure out a way to get more water through that plant, whether it's another train. We have some other design things we've talked about, ways to improve the treatment and get more water through that plant. The sand filters were put on hold. That's not a bad plan to do that, but for now it's on hold. And water conservation, I don't need to get on that soapbox here in March in the middle of a 3-inch snow, but that's something that I'm sure that the village of Chatham will put something out maybe in the next couple of months in the newsletter and say, water smart, don't come home at 5 o'clock and turn all your sprinklers on. Let's try to water early, water efficiently. And of course, that's one thing that will go a long way to keep from, and it'll help you too, because your water, you don't want to pay, put all that water down the gutter or to make it evaporate in the air as well. So water conservation will help out, but for this summer, I think they'll be fine. We just need to be proactive and think of ways to solve the problem. Yes?
Okay, Bill, from what I'm hearing you say, basically, you're buying into the fact that the West Tech membrane filters are, if installed properly and maintained properly, are capable of removing the iron and manganese from the water as West Tech originally said.
Well, I'm not a membrane expert. They are removing the iron and manganese, but in my opinion, the amount of iron that's coming from the wells and the way they're oxidizing it, that type of treatment would not have been my choice, I'll put it that way.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, but everybody's like building more concrete, and you want asphalt, and you're, and one works better, and the asphalt's gonna have to be replaced, and the concrete's gonna be better, unless you drive up Chatham Road in Springfield, and then you think, well, who designed that? Concrete, that's gonna be hard. But anyway, so anything can be A or plan or plan B, yes.
Since we're talking, I'm going to go back to the money issue. It seems to me, and maybe I'm misunderstanding what Nina and everybody was saying, but it seems to me that the hang-up with the money connection with the change of chemicals is directly related to Woodard and Curran being under performance contract with the commission. And so they've got a performance contract. When does that expire? And do they still want to deal with Woodard and Curran running their plant if they are hindering the process of improving and repairing, quite frankly? It's not about improving, it's about making it what it was supposed to be. So I'm just wondering.
We have many things we're
Before you start, if I could, I'm going to excuse myself to go watch my daughter, so somebody will need to take over chairing the meeting. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
No. Yes, thank you.
Will that lose the quorum?
Did you want to say something?
We have nothing to pass, rest of the meeting.
We can still, I think, listen, but I think this will
We have
conclude.
something to
We don't have anything to pass, okay, but discuss. I can stay if I need to.
Yeah, I don't think we can discuss the audit issue.
Can we put public comment on hold? Can we put this on hold and then discuss the audit so we get through business?
Real quick.
Was that it, Bill? Is that it?
Is that done?
No.
Go ahead.
Well, I think I was going to just say that just move on, that was a good question. I hope somebody somehow will answer that. But the flushing is about, guys, I completely like that.
We've got one more day. We've got a little bit of Rock 4 from about Independence up to Mansion Road, I think, is the area. Oh, that and the area on Plummer Boulevard from Route 4 to the underpass. So,
Just flushing is going to make a big difference. In any given town, you're going to find valves that were closed at the top were open, valves that were half open that were supposed to be wide open, a quarter open, 3/4 open. So I think the flushing is going to really make a difference in some areas. I've heard people say, well, the water's bad in pockets. Well, hopefully there won't be any pockets. If all the valves are open, everything's freely flowing and looped, and we get the corrosion where we can tolerate it with the phosphate and other methods. So Okay, well, I'll sit down.
Can I ask real quick, does the phosphate address hardness level?
No, it doesn't, it's a totally separate thing, phosphate, coastal main, all that.
Thank you.
Outstanding engineering year, you.
A couple of other things, less exciting than water, going on in terms of engineering-related items with the village. Actually, myself and Ryan Crawford from the village attended a meeting held by CWLP earlier last week regarding phosphates in the lake, and they're attempting to classify Lake Springfield as a 303D waterway or an impaired waterway, basically saying that the level of phosphates basically make it a contaminated body of water, and that any waters running into Lake Springfield have to be monitored, tested, and regulations imposed on those. The Village of Chatham is an MS4 community as evaluated by EPA, and therefore there are certain rules and requirements that the Village of Chatham has to meet. And as part of this ongoing study in terms of phosphates at the Lake Springfield, with the majority of the Village of Chatham drained into Lake Springfield, this reported document is attempting to place regulations and restrictions on the Village of Chatham for what's called non-point source flows into the tributary streams going into Lake Springfield. And the two items that they're concerned about or looking at are phosphates and sediment or total suspended solids. So those are two items that they want to regulate, and they want to impose restrictions on the Village of Chatham for those two items. Now, where that becomes difficult is there's 4 points where streams leave the Village of Chatham, boundary limits, and some of those run through other communities, others run directly into Lake Springfield. But to be able to monitor that is very difficult. And to place requirements or restrictions on that is very difficult to get a handle on, what is the volume of sediment, what is the volume of phosphates, or phosphorus that goes into Lake Springfield. So we're working with IEPA in terms of, what are those mandates. Now, the village is actively pursuing internal programs to limit the amount of sediment that runs downstream, looking at individual lot erosion control plans for development, increasing, inspections and regulations on, residential development, commercial development, and even looking at some of the internal, items that the village is doing in terms of, fertilizer at the parks and, those type of maintenance activities. But, the one thing that we're concerned about is that they want to impose a restriction on the Village of Chatham, but when questioned, well, what test do you need? What frequency to test? After what event storm? For what duration? How many times a year? Who do we report it to? The question keeps coming back, I don't know, that's a good question. So to be saddled with a requirement with no physical requirement to meet those requirements, it's difficult for the Village of Chatham to just simply say, yeah, okay, we agree, we'll comply, because there's no way to physically comply with that. Because what they're doing is they're looking at the entire watershed draining into Lake Springfield, and then they're saying Chatham is 28.6 square miles, and we're just going to take what the whole testing results are, divvy it up into a portion for the Village of Chatham and say, here's your requirement. Now, it may not necessarily be the Village of Chatham that's causing those issues, especially if phosphorus is from chemicals from farm fields and so forth. And actually, if you look at the phosphorus levels upstream of the Village of Chatham and downstream of the Village of Chatham, there's probably a reduction in phosphorus as it goes through town. So those are things that we're going to continue to work with IEPA and see what we can do in terms of those regulations. Because once those regulations get put in place, they are permanent and forever and a requirement from there on out. So a couple other things that we're looking at. There's some developments going on in town. We'll be talking tonight a little bit about Highlands. A preliminary plan will be up for presentation to the committee. And then the next planning and zoning meeting will have the final plat for Fox Creek, plat number 9. That will come before the
village for approval.
In Cardinal Ridge, Plat 3.
Cardinal Ridge Plat 3, which covers the Garvey Lane cul-de-sac area. They wanted to get that on the books to make sure that everyone's okay, that it wasn't going to be a cul-de-sac, and everyone's happy with it, so.
It's still closed.
It is still closed, and it is still a cul-de-sac, and it'll go in as approval on behalf of us and the village of Chatham to remain that way. So,
Work that back, thank you.
but they wanted to get that on the books to make sure that there's no questions asked about it, so. Then one last item, working with Pat and people at the Public Works in terms of coming together with some cost estimates and bid specifications for salt dome at the Public Works garage, electrical garage complex that they're going in with the township on that. So looking at pulling together some preliminary drawings and some specifications that those can be released for bid. So other than that.
Yeah, we had a OSHA officer drop by and tour the village, and he asked us to put load ratings on all of our balconies or areas that we have storage above working area or something like that. So CMT come out and looked at 2 of those, and then they even gave us a design for a 3rd one. We couldn't afford it in this year's budget, but maybe next year. So
it'll just be a plaque that's put on there for, total weight and then, pounds per square foot to meet. It's a Illinois Department of Labor, their OSHA division. They're just doing spot inspections with municipalities. So those were 2 items that they wanted checked out and make sure that there was a load restriction on those. So.
actually, the guy that I asked him, I said, so what was our grade? What do you think? And I said, A-? Oh, no, easily an A. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Questions for Jim? Thanks, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Audit service RFP, Pat?
Yes, we put that together. There's a packet in front of each one of you. We sent it out to 6 firms, and 2 of them submitted, Schaefer and Punk and Sickage. And after reviewing those, Jerry went through and gave them a grading system, and looking at the cost, the recommendation from staff is Sickage.
Yeah, some seem cheaper and they have a higher score, so
Yes.
I'm perfectly fine with going with Sickage.
They've done it in the
What is
past.
the resolution that we need to pass to engage in?
Just do a
Motion, you guys like to do everything by resolution, so we could just do a resolution at the next meeting.
The minimum cost would be $26,500, so it's over what I can sign for, so, yeah.
We need to give some 3-year engagement, so. Yeah, we can do a resolution.
All right, so do that.
Next meeting, resolution.
Are you talking about this month then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and then final item is the administrative discussion items.
I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on a few things that are happening around town. We do have a planning commission meeting Thursday. There will be a public hearing for a new annexation and zoning on the north side of Mansion Road. It'll be our first piece that actually annexes on the north side of Mansion Road. If you know where Cardinal Ridge is, the northwest corner of Cardinal Ridge meets up with the southeast corner of this new development. It's 10 acres. It'd be used storage units. A gentleman from Jacksonville is proposing to put 10 acres of storage units in there, staged in over the years. He's asking for zoning of industrial, which is what our current storage units are. The problem that we've run into in the past with industrial is we can't hold them to putting in asphalt or concrete or lighting or fencing. But because he has to sign an annexation agreement with us, he's agreed to allow us to put all that stuff in the annexation agreement. So he'll agree to what we need out there, or you guys won't vote for the annexation agreement. So,
That's the lighting, the secure fencing.
yes.
The asphalt. Landscaping.
Landscape, all that stuff.
Non-dust surface.
Well, it's gonna be concrete or asphalt. So,
Questions?
How is that other annexation coming?
The court-controlled annexation?
Out on Hall Road.
Yeah.
That was supposed to have been, last Thursday? And a gentleman that was going to fight that, his attorney had a relationship with the judge, so the judge had to recuse himself. So they had to find us a different judge, set a new court date for April the 3rd. That is at 9:30 in the morning at the Sangamon County Courthouse. So we're all ready to go for that. We've got, for the planning commission, like I said, Fox Creek, Cardinal Ridge. We've also been discussing in planning commission of coming up with a zoning for a winery, a zoning for a distillery, and a zoning for what I call urban storage units. Units that would be maybe in the heart of town, in a B2 zoning with a special use, but no outside storage, only one level, minimal lighting, completely fenced, landscaping, something that would fit in a B2 special use that you wouldn't want that to be industrial. So we've been kicking that around. We're not exactly sure where that's going to go.
Do we have zoning for a bed and breakfast?
I think we do. But we don't have one for a winery or a distillery. And then a local resident wants to open up another establishment, called me about a liquor license, and he wants to be able to sell wine, not only by the glass, but by the bottle. You know, bring a bottle over to a table, people drink from that bottle, get enough. We don't currently allow that. We can have a tavern license where you can buy the glass, or you can buy a package to go, but we don't have where you
You
can...
buy a bottle, bring it in. Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. That's what I asked Jeff. I said, we've got to find a way to be able to adjust our liquor license so that can happen.
I can't believe it's that detailed.
But we don't, currently it does not allow that. Other item, I've been working with the landlords. We're to the point where we can start holding the landlords responsible for the tenants that run out on their bills. And I talked to Sam Marconi first. He came in, he gave me a few things that he explains how his business works and how his business plan is and the time frame that he needs information to. And I also plan on sitting down with Chris Holloway and find out his. But I think talking to Sam and then what we're looking to do, I think we can get them to both work together. He seemed like if we work as partners, then we can both protect each other to make sure that neither one of us end up getting stuck with a bill. He wanted to bring his mom, and I said, no.
Tell him the truth. He threatened you with his mother. Bring my mother in. He is trying to work with you guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He really is.
He is.
And I hope you understand that, and I hope all the other landlords will as well.
Oh, I think they will. We do have a couple, possible new businesses coming to town. They'll be moving some ground behind the Memorial Medical Building in the near future. And we've been approached by a couple other businesses and a over 55 duplex area. It would be over near where the proposed park is by Fox Creek and Prairie Vista. So, just a couple different items to give you a heads up that we're talking to people on.
Questions for Pat?
Oh, the union contract, I sent you guys all a copy of the contract. I'm going to have it on the agenda for passage at the next meeting. The police have voted, they've accepted. So if you don't have any major heartburn or any concerns and stuff, either that or just give me a, hey, I'm okay with it. That way at least I'll know. one other thing. Lost it. I can't think of it.
Additional business?
Can we have on the agenda for the next time for the meeting be switched to from 6:30 to 6:15? Thank you.
So moved. All right, any motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Joe, would you like to?
Who was first? I didn't.
Joe, first, I was actually diligently, all in order.
So the committee of the whole is going to start at 6:15?
All in favor? I'll do it for the ordinance.
But that's what.
Do we have enough to get 2 votes in a row, is that what you said?